I quietly took over the HOA and turned the tables on a ruthless president. When Sarah and I bought our home nearly a decade ago, we thought we'd found our American dream. A quiet cul-de-sac, well-kept lawns, friendly neighbors. It was the kind of place where kids could ride their bikes after dinner and retirees waved from their porches. Back then, the HOA seemed like a formality. They kept the sidewalks shoveled in winter and sent gentle reminders about trash cans. It wasn't perfect, but it worked, until Karen Mitchell became HOA president. Now, if you've ever dealt with a petty, power-hungry HOA president, you already know where this is going. But Karen wasn't just your average nosy neighbor with a clipboard. She was meticulous, relentless, and terrifyingly effective. Under her reign, our HOA went from being mildly annoying to outright oppressive. She created new rules seemingly out of thin air. Bird feeders had to be exactly 5 feet high. Lawns couldn't be too vibrant. Holiday decorations were allowed, but only for 7 days after the holiday, and heaven help you if you had a string light out. At first, I played along. We all did. What choice did we have? But things changed when Karen decided to make an example out of me and my family. It was a Tuesday morning. Cold, grey sky. My coffee was still brewing when I opened the front door and saw it. Bright orange, centered on our door, taped like a scarlet letter. Notice of violation, immediate fee, increase, 500 month. Violation, excessive vehicles on premises. My heart dropped. 3 cars. That's what this was about. My work truck, essential. For my construction business, Sarah's SUV, she's a trauma nurse, works double shifts. And our daughter Emily's Honda Civic, her 16th birthday gift. Not junkers, not on the lawn, parked properly in our own driveway. I stood there, stunned, reading the notice again and again. That's when I saw her. Karen, walking down the sidewalk with her signature pink clipboard and her measuring tape, like a general surveying her battlefield. She stopped at our house, whipped out her phone, and started snapping photos like she was collecting evidence for a court case. My wife stepped into the hallway. "She's doing it again," she whispered. I clenched my jaw. "We're not hiding." Emily's car. That's our driveway, our property. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just about cars. This was personal. Karen had declared war. Karen thought I was just another guy with too many tools in his garage. What she didn't know was that I'd been quietly preparing for this exact moment for years. See, I'd watched this neighborhood change, watched Karen rise to power, watched her crush anyone who challenged her. And I started to wonder, what if the only way to fix this was to own it? I run a real estate investment company. Over the years, as homes came up for sale, I started buying them. Not under my name, of course. That would have been too obvious. I used a web of LLCs and shell companies, each tied to a different legal entity with different mailing addresses. It started as smart investing. But as Karen's rulebook grew more absurd and more people whispered about moving, I realized I could do something more, take control from the inside, legally, quietly. By the time that $500 violation hit my door, I owned 67% of the homes in our neighborhood, majority control of the HOA, and she had no idea. That same day, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. She framed it as addressing repeated violations. We all knew who she meant. She intentionally scheduled it for 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, a time when working families struggle to attend. But I was ready. The community center was packed. Karen wore her usual pastel suit and fake pearl necklace. Her husband, Bob, was by her side, handing out copies of new vehicle restriction proposals, limiting households to just 2 cars, all of which must be parked inside a garage. She launched into a slideshow, professionally taken photos of my driveway, zoom-ins of license plates, even weather data showing how my cars might contribute to snowdrifts. Mr. Thompson's property has become a used car lot, she said. Gasps from the front row, her loyal followers. I glanced around. Mrs. Rodriguez rolled her eyes. Mr. Chen, our high school science teacher, scribbled notes furiously. Then Karen revealed her masterpiece, a binder tracking every car entering or leaving our home for the last 3 months. That was the last straw. I stood up. Point of order, Madam President. She looked at me like I'd grown 2 heads. You're not recognized, Mr. Thompson. Actually, I said, walking calmly to the front, under HOA bylaw section 7.3, any property owner may raise a point of order prior to any board vote. I pulled out my folder. Inside, copies of property deeds, proof of ownership, and a printed map of the entire development. For the past 5 years, I said clearly, Sunrise Properties has been acquiring homes in this neighborhood. And I'm its CEO, murmurs, then silence. As of today, Sunrise owns 67% of all properties within this development. Karen turned white. The fallout was immediate. Karen tried to gavel the meeting closed. "This is illegal!" she shrieked. "You'll hear from my lawyer!" But I had come prepared. Actually, according to our bylaws, a vote to dissolve the board only requires a simple majority. One by one, neighbors raised their hands. "I second that motion," said Mr. Chen. "I third it," said Mrs. Rodriguez. Karen stormed out, but she wasn't done. 2 weeks later, she filed a lawsuit, accused me of covertly taking over the HOA through manipulation and deceit. We went to court. She arrived with her high-priced attorney. I arrived with evidence, 5 years' worth. Video footage of Karen measuring grass at 3 a.m. email records showing she waived fees for friends while hammering others. Proof that she used HOA funds to renovate her backyard patio. Screenshots of her private Facebook group mocking elderly residents who couldn't pay fines. A recorded HOA meeting where she said, "Clear as day. Of course I make up violations. That's how we keep this place under control." Even the judge flinched. Then came the final blow. 3 former board members testified against her, said she bullied them into passing rules, targeted homeowners she didn't like, used HOA fines to fund her annual trips to Hawaii. Karen, desperate to save face, called the media. She thought bad press would scare me. Instead, I welcomed it. Standing in front of my house, I faced the cameras. "Good morning. I'm James Thompson. I'm not here to tear down our community. I'm here to rebuild it." I showed financial records. I showed where HOA fees were misused. I shared testimonials from neighbors, single mums, veterans, retirees who'd been harassed by Karen's reign. The public loved it. The judge not only dismissed Karen's lawsuit, but ordered a full financial audit of the HOA. She was forced to resign and repay $147,192 in misused fees. A week later, a moving truck pulled up to her house. She was gone, her windshield taped with a parking violation from her new HOA Poetic. We reformed the HOA completely. Term limits for board members. Transparent budgeting. No more 3 a.m. grass measuring. Mrs. Rodriguez now leads the Community Garden Committee. Mr. Chen hosts science nights for local kids. We even helped Mrs. Johnson fix her roof, together as neighbors. Last month, I got a message from Karen's new neighborhood watch group. They wanted advice on how to deal with their own power-tripping HOA president. I smiled. Because the truth is, this was never just about cars or driveways. It was about power and what happens when people misuse it. But it's also about what happens when good people stand together. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rebuilding something better and proving that good neighbors don't need fear, they need fairness.